Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Ask Coach Marie. I'm Marie O'Neill, founder of Padma Life Coaching and your host on this series. This is a place where you ask a question and I give my unique opinion as a life renewal coach, astrologer, and past life regression facilitator. Please know that I'm not a therapist and I will never tell you what you must do. Each week on Friday, a new video is released with me answering 2 questions from the viewers. In addition to those questions, I talk about various other life renewal topics. Before we get started with the questions for this week, there are a couple of announcements. One is I have a virtual healing retreat that I'm producing called Find Your Flow. This retreat is happening on August 19th and 20th. It's an online event, and the purpose is to help you get in the flow of life by learning how to work with nature, how to hear nature, how to hear the inner promptings of your own soul. The link is below in the description. So all you need to do is click on the link and go to the Eventbrite page for more information. The second announcement is that I will be in Niagara Falls between September 4th and 8th of this year. I will be there for the Kepler College Symposium, which is their 25th anniversary. This college has been in business serving the astrological community for 25 years. And I'm really happy to be a part of this celebration. I'll be there with my friend and fellow astrologer, Lori Barnes. We will be co-hosting a masterclass teaching attendees how to write an About Me page and their bio. You can find information on the symposium by going to keplercollege.org. That's keplercollege.org. The event is in person. However, it will also be online, so you don't have to be there in person to participate. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the questions for this week. This week, our first question comes from Olivia, who is in Seattle, Washington. Olivia has written, I'm going through my Saturn return, and it feels like my entire life is being dismantled. My career, relationships, and sense of self are all in question. Can you explain what's happening from an evolutionary astrology perspective and how I can best work with this energy instead of fighting it? Oh my goodness, this is a really good question. Thank you so much for sending it in. Now, in your question, you didn't say which Saturn return you were going through. Each of us, if we live long enough, we can go through 3 and sometimes 4. If you were born with Saturn retrograde, you would have had your first Saturn return when you were a baby. If you are having your first Saturn return, that would happen about age 29. And then the second Saturn return would happen at about 58, 59 years of age. So I'm not sure which one you're going through because each has not a different meaning, but purpose is a little bit different. Saturn is about maturing and being responsible. When you go through your first Saturn return, it's about being an adult. You could be having children, getting married, you could be moving to a different location. You have moved away from being the kid and being dependent on your parents. And now for the next 30 years, you are an adult. And you have to do adult things like having a mortgage and a car payment and, all the things that being an adult brings with it, raising kids. The second Saturn return is a precursor to elderhood. Typically, what people do is they start retiring. A lot of times it's around 55. I'm noticing people are beginning to retire if they have the funds. But in particular, around the age of 60, 65, people are retiring. And this second Saturn return is about being the elder, moving into that phase so that you can now give back to others. I mean, not that you haven't given back all the years before, but now it's different. It's given your wisdom, your hard-earned wisdom. When you have a Saturn return and nothing happens, that means that you are on track. You are doing exactly what Saturn is asking. Saturn is a report card. Saturn is asking you, what have you done? What have you learned? How are you traversing through life? How have you worked the last 30 years of your life? What have you done? And are you on track with what your soul is asking of you? If you are not on track, then energy of Saturn will be used by your soul because Saturn doesn't do anything to you. This is a soul prompt, but that energy is active and it will put obstacles in your way. It will try to get you to move away from something that no longer serves you or is in your highest and best good. So if this is what's happening, then you have to know that whatever is falling away from you, it can't go with you into the next phase or the next cycle, Saturn cycle. It has to be dropped. And the more you fight dropping it, the harder it is. Because with this particular energy, if you don't let go of something that you're being asked to let go of, you may lose it anyway. And even if you don't, you won't benefit from holding on to something that you're being asked to let go of. So send me an email and let me know how you're getting on. You can always also sign up for an astrology reading with me. I specialize in Saturn. If you want to reach out and have me talk to you about your Saturn return, your specific Saturn return, looking at your birth chart, please reach out. I'm here. All right, we are going to move on to the topic for today. And our topic is cosmic rites of passage, using your birth chart to navigate major life transits. And we all have them. The planets orbit the sun. When we're talking about cycles, we're looking at how long it takes a planet to get back to its position where it was at the moment of your birth or at the moment of when you started your business, particular time. For example, Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion, takes 12 years to go around the sun. So every 12 years, you get a Jupiter return. So Jupiter comes around and it asks the question, how have you underestimated yourself? That's one of the questions that Jupiter asks. And then we move on to, say, Saturn. Saturn is a 30-year cycle. So when it comes around, it says, how are you maturing? That's what Saturn asks. Well, Neptune, we don't get a return in our lifetime. The country that you're living in does get a Neptune return. And with Neptune, it's one of the outer planets. And so it's looking at spirituality because it is our spiritual planet. Uranus is the planet of change, of lightning bolts. It's the revolutionary. And so it takes 84 years for Uranus to go around the sun. So at about 84, we get a Uranus return. And so we're being asked then, well, are you ready? How have you lived your life? I mean, what needs to change at this point? At 84, in this day and age, we're still active. And so you get these insights that come to you because you are now in the elder position. I once heard one of my astrology mentors say, when you get older, you're either an old fart or you're an elder. And the difference is whether or not young people want to be around you. So I like that. Anyway, now another cycle that we get, though, with Uranus is we get a Uranus opposition, which happens by age. It happens at age 40. That's where you get people having a midlife crisis because Uranus comes around and it shakes things up. And what happens is because Uranus is orbiting the sun, It's halfway back to where it was when you were born. And it's putting pressure on you to say, okay, what are you doing? Are you on the right path? We have some wonderful cycles out here. And if you pay attention to the cycles and what's going on with your life, it can help to direct you as to how to shift your life so that you're living from the soul perspective rather than the personality perspective. Another cycle that some people have, not everyone gets this cycle, and it is a Pluto opposition, which for some happens about age 87. Pluto has an orbit of 248 years around the sun. What happens is when Pluto, it's in elliptical orbit, when it gets to, I believe it's Leo, it starts to move faster. And it moves faster until it gets back around to Aquarius, and then it moves slower. For example, when it's in Scorpio, it takes 13 years for Pluto to go through Scorpio. Whereas when it's in Taurus, I believe it's 30 years. It's not an even orbit. People who are born with Pluto in Leo or Pluto in Virgo or, any planets to Aquarius, you're typically going to get an opposition with Pluto. And that happens at, I believe, 87. And that is a huge one too, because Pluto is about power, but it's your own authentic power. How are you utilizing it? How have you given your power away? So these are the cycles, and they're fascinating, and they can be quite literal in a person's life. So I hope that helps you with the cycles. All right, we are going to move on to the second question for today. That second question comes from Sam, who is in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Sam writes, I looked at my birth chart and saw I have Pluto in a very difficult position. I'm terrified that it means my life is destined for power struggles and trauma. How can I reframe my understanding of challenging planetary placements to see them as opportunities for soul growth? Good question. Thank you for asking. First of all, there is no such thing as a bad placement of Pluto. Pluto is about transformation, and it's deep transformation. It's about your authentic power and you owning your own authentic power versus ego power, versus giving your power away to someone else. What does authentic power look like? You have to keep doing the deep psychological work to keep digging and digging and digging and turning all of that wisdom, turning all of that information that you find about yourself, all the healing that you go through based on the traumas that you've experienced, all of that turns into wisdom. That's the treasure. Because remember with Pluto, because Pluto is the Lord of the underworld, this is where the treasure is buried for all of us. And that means you have to dig to find it. You have to dig to find the diamond within yourself, which is really about standing in your own power without any fear, without reservations about who you are, without being concerned about what other people think or being rejected. You're not concerned about that when you're standing in your authentic power. That's what Pluto wants. And Pluto can be rather intense when it comes to helping you to achieve that goal. If you're talking about Pluto being in a difficult position, and like I said, I don't believe that Pluto is ever in a bad position. Sometimes, though, Pluto is situated in a chart where it's louder. For example, I have Pluto in my 12th house, which is hidden. So Pluto, for a lot of years, was hidden from even me. I didn't know it was there. And it was operating from behind the scenes, helping me to transform my life. So when you look at where this planet is in your chart, look at what it is asking of you. What is the highest expression? What happens sometimes with the planets is the energy that manifests sometimes is the shadow. And that means it's something that you don't want. It could be anger. It could be expressed through somebody else, not you, but maybe somebody else directs their rage at you, or something that you can't get around. Maybe it's a boss, maybe it's a mate, but an event can happen. For example, when you think about war, that's very Plutonian. If you're in a war zone, why are you there? Hopefully you're there to defend people who need defending, hopefully, but you're still going through a trauma when you're there. What are you learning from that? I am an advocate of talking to the energy of the planet, doing pujas. And pujas are prayers, and they're talking to the energy of the planet and asking the planet what it is it wants from you, what it is it wants you to learn. It's amazing, though. Planets will tell you what it wants for you. Remember, though, we all have free will. We can accept the information or not. So it's probably more than you wanted to know about this, but thank you so much for asking the question. Please comment below and let me know what you think, or send me an email. We have come to the end of this particular episode. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel because it does help the algorithms. If you want to send me a question, send it to padmacoach@icloud.com. That's padmacoach@icloud.com. If you'd like to learn more about the services I offer, go to my website, padmalifecoaching.com. On there, you'll find information on past life regression, astrology, and life coaching. If you'd like to learn about me, please check out my book, And the Lotus Opened, a memoir. You can find it anywhere online books are sold. That would be Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, 8 Books, anywhere online books are sold. In that book, I talk about the trauma that I incurred over my life, or part of my life, and how I worked through it. There's a roadmap there that I used to heal some of the trauma that I went through. So check that out if you're interested. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you back here next week. Bye-bye.